Hello everyone and welcome to Family History Down Under. I hope you're all enjoying the conference and all the fabulous sessions that the conference has to offer. My name is Veronica Williams and I'm going to be talking to you today about Wikitree, the free family website. I'm actually a joint project leader for the Australia project on Wikitree and also a Wikitree ambassador, which means I go around and spread the word about Wikitree. So what is Wikitree and why would you use it? The great thing about Wikitree, not only is it free, but it's a collaborative website where you can work with other genealogists who share the same ancestors. And everyone on Wikitree is a volunteer, except for a very small team of people who manage the site. We have some great people coming together with skills from all around the world that make it a wonderful community. So Wikitree, as the name implies, is a wiki which is contributed to by many people. And it's a one world tree where we're trying to connect everybody's ancestors so that we have one tree, not duplicate trees, as in many other sites around the place. As I said earlier, it's a way to collaborate with other genealogists who share the same ancestor, and so we can build one big world tree and work together to make sure that trees are appropriately sourced. So Wikitree is very keen on having an accurate single family tree rather than a whole lot of disparate family trees that perhaps have conflicting data and have never had old errors in genealogies corrected. On Wikitree, we're very keen on collaboration and making sure that where possible we resolve any of those conflicting information, and if we can't resolve the conflict, that we document on profiles of that particular person profile about what the reasoning is. And to me, I find Wikitree very good because you can be much more productive in your research and reduce your research time by searching Wikitree for information and building on that. And if you find other information that conflicts with what Wikitree is, we're very keen for those any errors to be corrected and biographies improved. And that's the great thing about Wikitree, is that other people may well improve your profiles. It's a way to share pictures and resources, and also to find more connections more easily, particularly with DNA matches. I found Wikitree in 2013, so I've been there for nearly 10 years. And at the time I was looking for a way to document my research and was considering setting up a website and that sort of thing. But when I found Wikitree, I thought it was a fabulous alternative to doing that. And soon after, they brought out a whole lot of DNA features, which I think are fabulous. And that's what's kept me there. So it's a wonderful place to place your research. It's free. You can leave your information there, and it'll be a legacy for your descendants and other cousins for the future. So this is the homepage for the Wikitree site, which you can find at www.wikitree.com. And it's a very long page, so make sure you scroll down because there's lots of fabulous information further down the page. But this is the beginning of the page because that's all that would fit on the slide. And as you can see there, Wikitree's been going since 2008, and the tree now includes over 31 million profiles, and a profile means a person. And there's over 10 million profiles where there is DNA test information there. So, and there's now nearly a million. And this snapshot was taken in September, so it's probably hit the million mark by now, members from around the world. So moving further down the page, you can see a whole lot of information there that changes every week or so, different parts of it. And you can see there that we have a profile of the week, a member of the week, lots of interesting tidbits that are further down the page that often people miss if they don't actually look at the home page. So it's free, as I said, it's fun, it's a community, and it's all about collaboration. They are the best things about Wikitree, in my opinion. And if we go further down the page, you can see here that we list the top 25 names from the day before, how many profiles were added, the question of the week, and some historical posts there from our G2G forum, which is where you ask questions, and that stands for genealogist to genealogist. And as I said before, the main thing is that Wikitree is a community, and that we're looking to share our genealogy with the world, and that we can connect everyone up together across the world. And there is one thing that you need to do if you are planning to join Wikitree, is that you need to sign what's called the Honor Code, and it's spelt there the American way, but I'm going to spell it the English way, and as we move through these slides. There's no cost. So the good thing is that it's free for you to build your tree on Wikitree. It's also free to share your tree with others. I'm into DNA analysis, and it's wonderful to be able to send links from Wikitree, because not everyone who's done a DNA test has ancestry subscriptions and things like that, and often they can't look at your tree information unless they're on that, have a paid subscription. So it's a wonderful way to collaborate with others, not just people on Wikitree, but others around the world, and other family members. So what do you need to do to get started? When you first join, you can start as a family member or a guest. Now, guests can't add profiles, but guest access gives you the opportunity to look around the site and check it out. Family members need to be invited by an existing member. So that means someone like myself could invite someone else from my family to join Wikitree, but I take responsibility for them. And the key thing when you join Wikitree is that you're asked to sign what's called the Honor Code, which is not too onerous, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So guest access, add profiles and just check it out. Family members need to be invited and supervised by an existing member. And then wiki genealogists are everybody who have signed the Honor Code. So it's all about collaboration on Wikitree, and when you become a wiki genealogist and are awarded this lovely green badge, you have signed the Honor Code, which is just really some principles that you are committing to living by. And if you read through those principles, there's nothing too onerous there. It's about collaboration, and one of the key things is that we want one single profile for every person, so that we have no duplicates. So that means that nobody really owns their ancestor, and we need to share information and manage them in a collaborative way. We care about accuracy, so we want everything to be accurate. We expect people, if they make mistakes, it was unintentional, that people are courteous and apply respect and respect people's privacy and things like copyright. And if they've got their information from someone else, to give credit for those people. And citing sources is a key thing. We want the tree to be accurate, and we expect every profile to have at least one source. Now, it's not too difficult to do that. And one of the key commitments from Wikitree is that they want to keep information free and the site to be open as possible. So when you join up, and whether you've joined as a family guest or a family member or a guest or a wiki genealogist, this is a little bit of a sample of the menu that you will have at the top of your screen. And I'm going to go through some of these menu items with you and the drop downs that occur in each of them. So wiki genealogists must sign the honor code, and that means you can edit and add profiles to Wikitree. Now, one thing when I started, the most confusing thing was that the way the formatting process worked. But once you get used to it, it's pretty easy. The other thing that's a bit different to other websites is that we don't upload GEDCOMs per se, but we do have a process called GEDCompare where you upload a GEDCOM and look at the information that is already on Wikitree and see whether any of those profiles are actually already existing on Wikitree. So the GEDCompare process looks to see if there are similar people on Wikitree already, so that we don't get duplicates from the GEDCOMs. And there's a lot of junk that comes in with GEDCOMs, and so we're aiming to look at the profiles as they come in and remove that junk information from them before adding them to Wikitree. And so there's a process to review that before you add the particular profile to Wikitree. So that's ensuring that we have profiles that look nice as well as contain valid information. There's also a lot of good, useful technical tools on Wikitree, which we will talk about as we move through. So as we work through the presentation, I'm going to show you different aspects of the site menu. And you can see there on the right-hand side that we have a help area. So that's the drop-down list for the help area. And there's lots of ways you can get help. The two key ones there are highlighted. If it says forum, G2G, that's our question and answer forum, genealogist to genealogist. And help is a help index. And further down the page, it's not highlighted, but Introduction to Wikitree is very useful when you first start, to give you some ideas about how to do things on Wikitree. And it steps you through that process in a logical sort of way. So to join, I always find it's a little bit, I didn't really know how to join, but you actually have to click the login option there. So at the top of the home page, you'll see login. It doesn't say register like a lot of sites do, but that's where you go. And you click on that, and then you'll get the usual thing, as in most sites, and it says there, click here to register. You create an account by adding your email address and a password and that sort of thing. And you put your name in, and you'll get a Wikitree, what's called a Wikitree ID, which is based on your last name of birth. And you'll see on the page before, you might have noticed mine is Coat-12, which is my Wiki ID, it being my maiden name, and I'm the 12th Coates that's registered for Wikitree. So if you've got an unusual name, you might be whatever, number 1. That's always a good thing. So when you go through and register and join, you'll be presented with this collaboration list of how we collaborate on Wikitree, and I've spoken about some of these already. There's an ability to edit profiles. You can also send private messages to people who are profile managers. That's just someone who's taking responsibility for a particular profile. So any ancestors you add, you would be the profile manager for initially. You can make public comments, and as I've said before, there's the genealogist to genealogist forum. So there's lots of different ways to collaborate on Wikitree. And you get your unique identifier in the web address for your profile. So when you join Wikitree, you're asked to fill in a profile and fill in some information about yourself. You don't need to put in too much information, but it's always nice to know who we're talking to. So you can see at the top of the page there, I have Coat 12, which is my unique identifier. And then in the middle of the page there, you have the web address, www.wiki.com, etc. and Coat 12 on the end. So that number changes for every profile based on their last name of birth and in the order of which they join Wikitree, or are added to Wikitree, I should say. You can search for people using that box at the top there, and you can put in a name to find if your ancestors on Wikitree. If you know they have a identifier already, you can put the identifier in there. Or the other option is to search your own watch list. So once you've added a number of profiles, you'll have a watch list, which is really a list of all the profiles that you've got responsibility for. And you can search for them from there. So the next section is about working on profiles. And as I said before, profile is simply a person. So it's a word we use at Wikitree to describe individual people's information that's on Wikitree. Now the process is pretty simple. Everybody in the tree has a profile. And the idea is that you create a profile for yourself when you join, and you build backwards until you hit somebody who is already in the tree. And instead of creating a new profile for that person, you then link your profiles to that person so that we're connecting people in the big tree all the time. So this is an example of my member profile. So member profiles are a little bit different to other profiles in that they've got this section that's in the grey there at the beginning, which you can populate and has information about your activities on Wikitree. So you can see there that there's a whole list of communication preferences. When you first join, you'll get asked to fill this in. It's really pretty easy. It's just a list of options, and you can say you are interested in communicating or not interested in communicating. You can add some free text, or you don't have to. So this can be quite simple, but it just depends on what you want to tell other people. But it's a good way to talk about your interests so that other people know whether you have interests in common with them. It also shows you what's called tags, those green boxes there. It's got announcements, Australia, Britain. You can follow different tags in Wikitree, so if there's any questions raised in G2G or profiles created that using those tags, then you get notified of those. And so that's a good way to keep in touch. It also shows there in the orange boxes the most active surnames that you've been in year to date, I suppose it is. And then to the right there's the badge area. So everyone gets badges, but there's only 12 badges showing on your profile at any one time. And these are really just to show what you've been working on and to reward people for their efforts at times. You can see there that I've got 155 badges, but a lot of that is for contributions that I've made over the years to Wikitree, because we get a contribution badge every month if you've made over 100 edits or over 1,000 edits. So there's more information below, and this page. So this is just the top of the page. Under each of the menu items, there is a drop down. So under My Wikitree, that is for members, and those different menu items appear on every member's profile. And actually, there's a few things there that I wanted to point out. So we have what's called a navigation homepage, which I'll show you in a moment. Suggestions is very important, which shows you any errors that might be around with in your owned profiles, anything that you're responsible for, so that you go and have a look at those. And watch lists, which is, as I said earlier, the list of the profiles managed by you, so you can find all your people at once in an easy way. Now, the top part here is what I call an action menu, and it was actually at the bottom of the page there, I should say, but it's actually at the top of most profiles, and that is where you make changes and where most profiles start. So this is just an example of the GED compare process, and you'd undertake the GED compare process before adding new profiles to the tree. Many people just add one profile at a time, and that's probably the recommended way, but you can run this report, the GED compare report, to actually upload your GEDCOM to see who's on Wikitree. So you can have a look and see how many of your ancestors are on Wikitree, and then make a decision about how you want to add your profiles. Or you can load the GED compare process and then with the GEDCOM, and then progressively upload and work from a GEDCOM type list to add your profiles. It really comes down to personal preference, but I think more people are doing the one at a time process at the moment. But GED compare is very useful to find out how many people are there of your ancestors are there already. So nothing too difficult about it. You generate a GEDCOM from your family history program, you upload it as a file, it goes through the motions, and then it provides a report. And you can see here, this is just an example of what it suggests. So that in the first couple of columns there's some names, they're my ancestors' names, and their dates of birth. And over in the right, you can see where it says matched, it thinks it's found the right person, the same person, and it gives you the opportunity to have a look at that. For someone further down the page, William Wilton, I think that says, a bit small for me to read. It's given me a number of suggestions there. So are these people the same person? So you can see there that most of those names aren't actually the same surname, but they could be duplicates, and we don't want duplicates to happen, so we want people to match their ancestors to those people if they already exist on Wikitree. And once you've done that process, this little add button will appear. Once you've gone through all the ancestors in the actual GEDCOM, these little ads will appear, and then you can add those individuals one at a time. So the reason we suggest only doing small GEDCOMs is so that you can actually work through the list, add all the profiles, and make all the corrections that you may need to remove any GEDCOM junk from those profiles. And generally, I tend to just do a small branch at a time when I do it. But you don't have to do it that way. You can just add your ancestors one at a time to Wikitree. Now, one of the great things about Wikitree, not only can you upload a GEDCOM to do the GED compare process, but you can also download a GEDCOM from Wikitree. And for those of you who are interested in DNA research, then this is a great way to do it. If you find your matches on Wikitree, you can download their GEDCOM and add some information to your own tree if you've got a separate one for your DNA research. So this is an example of a simple profile where there are limited facts and only one source. Well, there's 3 sources listed there, but Wikitree only insists on it having at least one source, and it can be as simple as, family tree handed down by Aunt Jenny in 2008 or something like that. But really we want to have more reputable sources than that, but sometimes that's all you know when you start out, and that's okay, but we would expect you to sort of try and build over time on those resources. And you can see there that in that biography all I have is Amelia Adelaide Ellard, married Robert James Milligan. And I've got a couple of sources there. But a simple profile doesn't need to have an extensive biography. And there might only be a few limited facts. You can see there on the right-hand side the DNA connections feature, and down the bottom there the ways to collaborate with people. So anyone who's looking at this page can click on some of those things and ask to talk about Amelia Adelaide Ellard. And in that DNA connections, all those things are live links, so you can see my name there. And so I'm related to Amelia, and if you're looking at another profile, you might want to talk to me if this was also an ancestor of yourself, and you can just click on those name links to contact me. So as we said before on the earlier screen, there is an edit menu for every profile, and for non-member profiles like this one, it's at the top of the page. And if you are the manager of this profile, so if you've created it, you become the profile manager. So there I am as the profile manager, and you can click on send private message there. When you click on my name link, it will take you to my member profile page. But if you just want to send a message, you can click on that. It'll open up your email program. Now this particular profile has an open privacy level. You can see there with the lock on the top, and it's white, and so that means that it's open for others to make changes. And this person died in 1959, and anyone born at least 150 years ago is required to be open. One thing you can do is if you don't want to retain ownership of a particular profile, you can do what's calling orphan the profile. So you can see there that this one now has no profile manager adopt this profile. So I've orphaned the profile. One thing I have found when I first joined Wikitree, I added lots of my cousins and ancillary lines, and I'm now currently orphaning them, tidying the profiles up, making sure that they look nice, and then I'm orphaning them so someone in a more direct line can take over that particular person. But you might see there in the sources list, I've got a note there that I created the profile, but Amelia is still of interest in my DNA research, and I would like people to contact me if they want to collaborate. So it leaves the door open for collaboration, but it means that don't necessarily have to keep going back and making sure that things are right on that profile, that other people can take ownership. So someone who's more directly related might come along and adopt Amelia's profile. So I mentioned the privacy levels there, and Wikitree has a number of different privacy levels that can be applied to different profiles, and so you can have restricted information available, but the older the profile, the more open it needs to be. And the bottom two categories there, public and open, really would apply to most profiles. So as I said before, deceased people over 150 need to be open, but we recommend around 100. I believe anyone who died over 100 years ago should be open as well. Public is a way for the profile to be open, visible by everyone, but perhaps it's someone close to you who has only recently died. You want to make the information public, but you don't necessarily want people making changes to it. So it's a sort of an in-between category that you can have to manage some of your closer family members. Now the three in the middle there, the orangey, yellowy colours, are where most members need to be. We recommend, in the spirit of collaboration, that members have some public information. And so there's three options there. You can have a public biography, or you can have a public tree, or you can have a public biography and a public tree. my category is the public biography and family tree, and I would recommend anyone who is trying to do DNA research to have that level of privacy so that others can find you. Now, the last option is for unlisted and private profiles, which are the best options for non-member living people, although members can have the private category, but as I said before, it's not really in the spirit of collaboration, so we recommend the others, but it is possible to have a private profile. And when you have a private profile, so other family members, perhaps your mother and father are still alive, they can be private, you can be public, and their information won't be seen. It'll just show private, and we'll see some examples of that shortly. One thing I need to point out is that you need a public family tree for your DNA test to show up. So if you're looking for collaborating via that mechanism, if they click on your name in on one of your ancestors' profiles, they're not going to find you unless you actually have a visible family tree. So this is an example of a more complex profile, and one where there's a more complete biography and with multiple sources, things called categories, and images which you can put in the actual biography text area. So this is my great-grandmother, Rebecca Cassidy, and I'm just going to show you some of the things that are on her profile. And as I mentioned before, everything on Wikitree, sometimes you've got to go down a long way to be able to see it all. So I'm going to sort of step through some of the information here. You can see there those two boxes I've got highlighted, ancestors and descendants, and if you look very closely there's a little symbol there that looks like splaying out, which is meant to represent a pedigree, and on the descendants one is sort of like stairs going down, and that's a symbol to show descendants. And you need to keep an eye out for those throughout Wikitree, because you can click on those to see pedigree charts and descendant tables throughout Wikitree. So this is, if I clicked on the ancestors tree, this is Rebecca's pedigree, which these pedigrees are shareable, so they're a good way to share information with other people. And if you've got your glasses on, you should be able to see those little symbols there next to Thomas Cassidy's name. And that's where the pedigree symbol and the descendants staircase are located. And if you click on those, you'll get more information in that form. So this is an example of a descendants list. So I've clicked on that form on Thomas Cassidy, and you can see there the list of descendants. Now, obviously, it's only going to be as good as what Wikitree, the information Wikitree has at the moment. So it may not be a full list of descendants, but that's what we're aiming for. Other people may well add more people than you know about, but what we're aiming to do is to add profiles for all the descendants. But you just need to recognise that just because it says he had 5 descendants or whatever, doesn't mean that's all there is. There could be more. And you can see there that private profiles aren't visible. So that green box at the top of the screen is showing what members outside the trusted list see. So because I have a different view to other people, so if I own this profile, I would see more things than someone who's not a member or who's not on the trusted list, which is an access level, I suppose, to edit this particular profile, particularly if they're green or have got other private information there. But you can see there that private individuals, people who have got a privacy level of private, are shown there as private great-grandchild, 1940s to unknown. So, and that's the descendants list. So getting back to Rebecca's profile, if we scroll down the profile, we'll see more information about DNA and sources and that sort of thing. So there's more the ability to add images in there into the biography to make it easier to read and refer to. Inline sourcing is possible with Wikitree, and once you get the hang of that, it's very easy to do, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I should have said, as at the top there, underneath the edit menu, there is a sub menu, which is a way to move down in the profile to those sections. And you can see there the category section, which is a way of adding items to a particular profile where they may have been involved. So in this case, there's a whole lot of suburbs there where Rebecca lived. I've also got some information there about her belonging to a name study, an Australia Cassidy name study. But there's a whole lot of different things, shipping information, a whole lot of categories based on, lots of different things that if your ancestor was a plumber, for example, you might want to put him in a plumbing occupation category. So categories are created by users, but they are a way to group people together on a similar topic. So it's good for research if you're looking into plumbers and you want to know all the plumbers that were around at whatever year, perhaps you might be able to find some information that way. So it's good for research, and also it's good for finding people. So I might want to look at Lewisham and see whether there are any other Cassidys living in Lewisham, and that can help as well. Clicking on the comments box will, at the top of the page, will take you straight down to the comments box at the bottom of the page, where you can leave a public message for anyone who's looking at the profile. The last thing I wanted to mention about that box at the top is the matches box. And if you click on that, you can go down the page to see whether anyone has identified any potential duplicates with this profile. And if you identify a duplicate, you can actually suggest that they be matched together to check things out, to see if they are the same person, or to actually initiate a merge. And once you've initiated a merge, they will show down there until they are approved. So sometimes it takes a while for merges to be approved by the other person who manages the second profile. So sometimes you may have to wait a bit to get those things happening. Now, underneath the matches and merges area, you'll see one of the fun things on Wikitree, and that is connection finders, and that you can see there are a lot of interesting people listed at the bottom of the page there about how many degrees away is Rebecca from particular people like Arthur Guinness, Maureen O'Hara. And I was just going to show you there because Daniel O'Connell has appeared there, the famous liberator of Ireland. And in our family, it was one of the things that when I first started my genealogical research that was always said in the family that we were related somehow to Daniel O'Connell, but we never really knew how. Now, it took me a long time to actually work out how the connection was in fact by marriage, not by blood, but very proud connection obviously for most Irish people. So but nowadays with all the profiles that I've put on Wikitree, it's very easy and it can appear and anyone can find it in 5 minutes flat. So that's an exciting thing from Wikitree that is quite useful to see how you are connected to other people. It can be by blood or by relationship. And so this is one of the connection tools, and you'll find this connection tool under the Find menu up there in the top right hand corner. And basically all you do is key in a profile ID down there in the bottom there, O'Connell 837 to Cassidy 446, who is my great-grandmother Rebecca Cassidy. And it immediately pops up that Daniel O'Connell is 10 degrees away from Rebecca Murphy. So this is the connection finder, and this one shows you just relationships. So it's not just blood. So the green indicates that they are a blood relationship, and then it changes to a non-blood relationship when it turns yellow. And that's 10 degrees of separation. Genealogical blood relationships are by another tool called the relationship finder. So if you click on the drop down there under find, you'll see connections at the top with the orange arrow, and then relationships are the blood relationships that by the green arrow. And these are great tools for DNA research because you can put in your matches. If your match is on Wikitree, you can put in your ID and your match's ID, and perhaps with a bit of luck, when you click on the connection button, it'll tell you how you're related to that person. And just pointing out here that this is another area of Rebecca's profile where we've got the DNA connections showing who's had a test. So these are descendants who are likely to have inherited DNA from Rebecca Cassidy. So most of those people are my family, but often you'll find other people who you don't know that are great clues to collaborate with because they clearly have an interest in DNA and looking to improve your ancestors' information. So you can contact those people. You can also write information about DNA results on Wikitree, and at the top of the page there you'll see Thomas Cassidy and Mary Sweeney Cassidy, who are Rebecca's parents, there with a little orange-yellow symbol with a green tick on it showing DNA confirmed. Now, we don't use these confirmations loosely in Wikitree, and we expect people to write a DNA confirmation note similar to the one that I've got there on the left-hand side when they are using or adding those DNA confirmation tags to their ancestors. And the way to do it is to, when you're in the edit view, is to click the radio button that says confirmed with DNA, and then write a source citation to show how by DNA they are confirmed. And so that would be, through some sort of autosomal test, Y-DNA test or mtDNA test, and documenting that information. So I tend to do it as a part of the biography under a DNA symbol, and have inline sourcing down to the DNA relevant source. But you can do it lots of different ways. And so in the source area there, you can see lots of different sources, including the DNA source. And at the end of, I use inline sourcing as much as possible, but you can also just put dot points at the end of your sourcing and see also, and make references to other sources that you may have had. So we talked about Daniel O'Connell before, who was a non-blood connection, so 10 degrees of separation for various relatives. But the other tool that we do have, connection tool we do have, is the relationship finder, which will find blood connections. And if I put in my name and Rebecca's IDs, we get a direct relationship found, and you can see there that it itemizes how I'm related to that person. So Rebecca is the great-grandmother of Veronica, DNA confirmed, and you can see the whole path up from me to my great-grandmother has got the DNA ticks on it, and all the profiles would have a DNA confirmation on them. So I like the DNA indicators, and they appear on your pedigrees and when you are in pedigree view. And giving ancestors a tick, as I call it, is a good way to focus your research. So you can look at the gaps that you might have and identify areas where ancestors might need review and that you might need to do a bit more research. And you can see here, it's a bit hard to read, but you can see here that I've got DNA confirmations for a lot of my ancestors out there to the second great, or mum's second great grandparent level. But there's several areas there where I haven't been able to say that those people are DNA confirmed, and they are my research areas. Now, the first two fellows, Edward Roberts and Arthur George Courtney, have continued to give me grief for a long time. Edward Roberts just doesn't seem to get any DNA matches. Arthur Courtney is a brick wall, and I'm still working on him. On the Murphy, going down the list there, the Murphy-Bateman side of things is Ireland, and obviously we need to put in a bit more extra work to get further back in time there. But a good way to look for other things that you might like to get into research. So if you're in that particular screen, which there are a lot of more options further down the page, which I'm just going to show you briefly, and they contain a whole lot of research tools. So when you click on Genealogical Research tab, these reports are available for every profile. So it doesn't matter whether you're on yourself, someone else, one of your ancestors, or a DNA match. These will appear, and different reports are useful for different sources. And the good thing about Wikitree is that all of these reports generate with their own link that can be sent to people. The compact family tree is probably the best report to send to your DNA matches because it can show up to 254 ancestors. But a lot of people don't really understand how to read untoughful tree format files, so it can be confusing to some people. But lots of interesting things there that you can utilise. So I'd recommend you going through some of those things to become familiar with them. And this is an example of a compact family tree. As you can see, it doesn't fit on the page, and it's not in the standard pedigree review type format that people are used to. Next, I want to talk about editing a profile. And as you can see, everything to do with a particular profile in the menu item is under their Wiki ID. You can see there we've got Sweeney number 1. In Wikitree, we use the surname that we found from sources for the last name at birth, and we add in variations of their surname so that they are found in the index. So you can see there I've got Sweeney and Sweeney spelt in different ways. When you come to add a profile, if nobody's on Wikitree, you use the add function, which is in the menu bar. Otherwise, you just click on that edit in the top screen there, top row there. And to add additional people to the profile, you can see there that the father and mother and siblings and spouses are listed there, and you click on those and you add the Wiki ID if you know the person already to connect someone to the tree, or you could just create a new person. And you can see there the last name at birth variations on the left hand side there of the various spellings of Sweeney, and that's how you get them into your profile. One of the great things about Wikitree is this edit text bar that I used to ignore when I first started on Wikitree, but there's lots of great things there. You can see a lot of the standard things that we're used to, like bold and italics, but some of those other ones are a bit more unusual. I'm going to quickly run through what they do. The one that looks like a staircase is a way to add categories. So we talked about categories before. So if I wanted to add Rathclooney Townland, I start to type in the text box there, and the existing categories will already come up. So it avoids spelling areas, and you can quickly put your people into those categories. The second thing there with the little tree is where you can just add, you click on that and it adds the format of a Wikitree ID and a name to enable you to link a person you might be talking about in your biography. So I might be talking about Rose's daughter Mary Sweeney. I can just click that and then I can put her details in, and then when you click on the formatted link, it'll take you to her profile. The next one is a little bit more unusual, and it's about having non-formatted text in there. Probably that's not something you would use when you first start out. The last one is particularly useful, which is the Cite Your Source. And this is a way to do inline sourcing. So if you click on that, you can then paste your source in between the reference tags, and then it'll appear in the sources list nicely with a, like, there's my example there, number 3, Dublin, Ireland, probate records. I now want to talk to you about Wikitree tools, and there's a number of them, and I won't have time to go through them all in depth today. But once you get started to using some of these tools, they can make you much more productive. And the first one I wanted to talk about was Wikitree X, and most of these are available in the Chrome web store. So when you've loaded it, it should appear in the middle of the page in the edit text box there, and you can see it there, Wikitree Plus. So you just click on that, and there's a number of options that come up to do with formatting and adding things to your biography. And one of the things I like to use is the add sticker. So to find the Australian stickers, I just put AUS in the filter box there, and a number of things that have got that in the spelling come up. Most of them are Australia, and you just pick the one you want and it adds it to the profile. And that's an example of some of the stickers that you can add that you might have seen as we've gone through the presentation. As I said, it's a Wikitree extension. One of the great things I like is the research button. And when you go to your profile of the person you're looking at, and in this case we're looking at Griffin 4106, you'll see down there under that menu, research. And when you click on that, you can log into various things via this Roots Tech Wikitree integration box. Now you put in your login IDs, and then you it populates the search templates, and down the bottom there you have the option of changing some of these to the ones that you do most often, and you can disable or enable certain ones through that process. Another interesting tool that is there is on the Research Tools page is this Ancestor Explorer. And it's a great one for finding immigrants to Australia through Wikitree. And so it'll show you there. So I did a search. I hadn't used this much before. I did a search for 15 generations, and it brings up all the people who came to Australia in that period. And it's good for researching and to see who you might not have done enough work on. And there are a number of other queries that you can have for other countries, but I'm just showing you the Australia one today. And finally, the last Wikitree extension, which is again is available at the Chrome store, is Wikitree B, and this is another fantastic app. One of the things I like to use is the autobiography, and you can see there it appears next to the Wikitree X symbol there in the edit page. When you click on autobiography, it'll populate your biography with everything Wikitree knows already, so the parents, the siblings, the children, and put some text around that. So then it's just a matter of editing. So it's a much easier way to start creating your biographies. Now, Wikitree also allows for a lot of individual variation between users. And I mentioned the navigation homepage earlier, and everybody has a navigation homepage, and you can set this page up however you like, and there's a number of different options. This is the way I've set mine up, and it's sort of like a personal notes page, and you can have this as the first page that you come to when you log in, or you can just go there through the menu, and you'll see it there under my Wikitree navigation homepage about halfway down. These are my settings, and as you can see there, you go into settings to change some of these, and you can look at the starting page. You can start up with this page, or you can actually have the Wikitree start page, or you can start from your profile. So it's a matter of personal preference. We also have things called personal categories, and you can set them up for yourself. And I have a lot of personal categories set up for my DNA research and name studies, things like that. So I have this page, category page, code 12, which is my wiki ID, and a number of categories there. And I also use it as a personal notes page, a bit more formal, where I link the name studies that I'm actually a manager of to that page. So it's actually a way to go to a lot of things around Wikitree without having to look up and remember where they are. You can have them linked to that page. And you can see here some of the subcategories that I have and some of the pages. So Wikitree has categories and pages, and sometimes that can be a little bit confusing. But so pages are really like, could be like a blog area. So you might like to write the history of family and then link it to one of your profiles. Subcategories, the categories are actually, as I explained earlier, lists of profiles that have a common theme or a similar area of interest. And you can see here that under categories I have linked, I've got a category called Code 12 Needs Work, and I've got a few profiles there listed to that I want to go back to and fix up. So it's a way for doing to-do lists. There are separate to-do lists, of course, but it is a way to do that. And as I said, the pages are a great way to be an alternative to setting up your own blog, where you can write lots of things and link them to individual profiles and have them set up with categories that people. Now, Wikitree has some fabulous DNA features, and I've already spoken about a number of these already today. And there's a list of the DNA features, and we've already spoken about half of them. So I'm just going to talk about a few more quite quickly. So one of the great things under family trees and tools, when you scroll down to the bottom of the page there, is this wonderful DNA ancestor views, which shows your DNA contributions, and where the confirmations have been made. So the confirmations are the little orange symbols, yellow-orange symbols with the tick, and you can also see whether someone has contributed to your autosomal X, Y, or mtDNA. These are for every profile, and so they're great to send to people if you're trying to work out some DNA connection. Some of the other features, you can click on your DNA or any profile. So this is Mary Sweeney, my second great-grandmother, her profile, and you can click on DNA descendants, and you can see there who may have inherited the X chromosome from Mary. So if you're looking to try and validate a match on the X chromosome, you can look here to try and find suitable testers. Because it's a one-world tree, there might be people there that you don't know about that have connected themselves to your ancestors. And you can see there in the middle of the page, you can see people that have had a test, even if they're private, and possibly send them a message. The DNA ancestor view is similar. You can see who is an ancestor of yours who has the same mitochondrial DNA or the X chromosome. For men, similarly, this is Thomas Cassidy, my second great-grandfather. So who are the descendants that inherited the Y chromosome? So you might be able to find people to take tests for you if you're looking to validate something. You can see who's been DNA confirmed as well, which can be quite helpful. When you add your DNA test to Wikitree, it's a little bit fiddly. You've got to go to the ancestor views and then click on DNA tests. Once you've done that, it takes about 24 hours to populate, so don't be concerned if it's not showing on the profiles immediately. And remember, you have to have a public tree for it to work properly. So when you go into the DNA tests, details and connections area, you'll see a whole list of people, and they are the people where the box of DNA connections is appearing on their profile. So they're all the people that are connected to you. It should show those links again, which are the green links, where you can click on those and go directly to that person's profile. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that Wikitree was a fabulous place for collaboration with other genealogists, and projects are a great example of that. On Wikitree we have a whole lot of different projects that you can join, and they're a great way to learn about Wikitree. You can work on your own profiles, or you can get involved in working on broader activities and improving other profiles in the project. So you can see there a list of some of the geographical projects, which is a whole list of countries, including Australia and others that may be of interest to a lot of you, like England or New Zealand. Topical projects are about subject matter, so you can see there the Holocaust or Magna Carta, one name studies, one place studies, that sort of thing. And then there's a whole lot of functional projects which are really about the health of Wikitree. And you can see there that there's some things like categorization and data doctors who look to fix errors around Wikitree, and a number of other things. Now this is the homepage for the Australia project, and I'm one of the joint project leaders of the Australia project, so I'd encourage all of you to come and join us at Wikitree in the Australia project. And we have a lot of different sorts of teams, again focused on geography, maintenance and topics that people are interested in. So you can see there we have state teams, and the topics we've had things like the convicts, Indigenous Australia, Eureka Stockade and that sort of thing. So if you've got an interest that you think there might be other people interested in, you can actually create your own team and develop profiles around that subject area. So come join us. And to join us, you just go to the Project Australia area and click on, there's a link there to the G2G where you answer the question, and you come and join us at Wikitree. You can see there at the box there, which is a whole lot of areas where you can go to for more resources. A lot of people overlook that area, so please click on those and have a look at what's in there. We encourage all our members to do what's called the PIP voyage, which is the Profile Improvements Project voyage, and basically it's a way to learn about best practice for improving Wikitree profiles. And they give you a lot of ideas about sourcing, formatting and that sort of thing. And once you're completed, you get a sticker. You can get stickers for virtually everything in Wikitree. We don't like people to have too many on their profiles, and a lot of people don't like them at all. So it's not, you can delete profile stickers if someone's put one on your profile, or you might like to just have the ones of relevant to the projects that you're interested in. So you can see there I've got one for the Australia project and the Convicts project. So under the that box I mentioned earlier, there's a whole lot of resources, and you can click on there for information, and you can see here under the Australia project guidelines category we've got a lot of free space pages with instructions about how we would like profiles set up under particular topic areas, different things that confuse people we've tried to document, and we're trying to do that for all the topic teams. So you can see there's a project guideline for Australian convicts, so if you go into there you can see how we would like you to add stickers or categories and things like that. It's not mandatory, but we would like to have more consistency across the Wikitree that we can. So this is just an example of the homepage of the Indigenous Australian project, and a lot of the projects will have project tasks. So this is a bit of a guideline for you to follow if you're a member of the project, what sort of things you can do to help contribute to the project while also improving your own profiles. And we have a Prussian settlement in Australia team, which has got a lovely homepage, lots of lovely old prints there. And so this is for anyone who has ancestors who came to Australia from Prussia, and so you can come and join that team if you've got an interest in that area. Of course, we have the convicts, and many people are engaged in that. So one of the things we do have, I mentioned earlier, was that we have these pages and categories. And this is an example of what we call a free space page, which means you can write anything you like on this and then link it somewhere else to either a profile or a category. And here we have some documentation about the first fleet to Australia. Now, we also have a category page, which is for the first fleet, but you can see there that the category page, as we've talked about before, is people with a like interest. So all the convicts who arrived on the first fleet should be actually attached to this page and to this category. And so you can see it's more like lists of people. One of the new features is the My Connections, which is at the top of every category page. And you can see here that if I click on that, it comes up and tells you whether you have any connections to anyone in that category. So I have no ancestors or cousins in the first fleet category, but you can see there in connections that I am only 10 degrees away from Matthew Everingham, and that's because he's connected on my husband's side. But if I go to the category called Convicts After the Third Fleet, I get a different result. And you can see there that Thomas Cassidy, who we spoke about before, was my second great-grandfather, and he's listed as an ancestor for me, along with his two brothers who were transported at the same time. They threw their landlord's horse over the cliff in Ireland. Okay, so the next thing I just wanted to quickly show you was some project examples of some of the profiles that we have on the Australia project. And here we have Yvonne Goolagong Corley, who's a well-known tennis player. And this is just an example of one of the Indigenous Project's profiles. So she's a living notable, and she has a public biography with a public family tree. You see the yellow box lock there. Not all notables are on Wikitree, and if they're still living, and there is a certain criteria that they must meet before they are allowed to be published on Wikitree. Now, this is an example of one of our convict profiles, and not only has it got some great images and things there, but one of the things I wanted to point out was the ability for Wikitree to add research notes, and these are particularly useful when individual researchers particularly have found other information that may well be of interest to other researchers, and gives them the ability to document some of that on the profile of the person, particularly where there might be some issues in relation to disputed parents or differences of opinion about who a particular person's parents were, as in the case of Mary Broad Bryant. And that can be documented there. And that's one of the great things about the projects, in that we can collaborate and try and make sure that what we've got on Wikitree is the most up-to-date and appropriately sourced information, and not just replicating old family trees that have got other sources that disprove some of their connections. So we're very strong in Wikitree about making sure profiles are adequately sourced and that we have an accurate family tree. So before I finish up, I just wanted to talk about what a great place Wikitree is for connecting with others. And Wikitree is fun. There's lots of different projects that you can get involved in, and we have things called sourceathons and teams. Our team in Australia is called the Wizards of Oz. And some of these challenges are good fun and a way for people to learn about improving Wikitree whilst also working with others. And Wikitree is great for your blog. As I mentioned earlier, we have some wonderful tools that can be shared with others. So some of these Wikitree trees are available as widgets, and you can pop them on your blog so they look very nice. And I tend to, in my blog, add the Wikitree tree and also links to various people and some of those reports that we talked about in the DNA features. So I would tend to send information to my matches from some of these pages. So you can find us on Facebook, and we have Wikitree in Australia, but there's also another Wikitree group, which is the broader Wikitree. So I love Wikitree, and I hope you will too. So come and join us at Wikitree. It's free, and it's a great place to collaborate with others and to make sure your story is told and retained for the future for you and your ancestors. So if you want to contact me, you can contact me through Wikitree, and there's my Wikitree ID, Coat 12, or you can contact me through my blog at www.genemonkey.com. So I hope this has been useful for you today, and I hope to see you soon at Wikitree, and enjoy the rest of Family History Down Under. I'm sure I will. Thank you.